Housing is important to everyone. It is important if you are housed. It is important if you are not housed. If your housing is being provided by an entity whose motive is wealth for their shareholders, they're probably not interested in saving you money. And so that's where the non-market sector comes in.
We know that in the last 10, 12 years, we've lost over 30,000 units of housing that had been rented for $1,000 or less per month.
We have a goal of adding 850 new homes to our portfolio by 2034. Sure thing. My name is Sarah Button, and I am the Executive Director of Centertown Citizens Ottawa Corporation, or CCOC for short. We are just over 50 years old. We were founded in 1974. I'm actually wearing the t-shirt from our 50th, and we own and operate 1,700 affordable homes across Ottawa's urban neighborhoods in 54 buildings. And yeah, we've been doing this a long time. Affordability is a measure of what can households pay, and that should not and should never be measured based on what is the absolute maximum that they are willing to shell out for a home. No, it's what is a reasonable level that lets people fulfill their ambitions. And we know that in Ottawa right now, the rental wage, that what you would need to be making on an hourly basis to afford, an apartment, is way higher than minimum wage. So there's a disconnect there, right? And we often talk about housing affordability in a vacuum, and we say, is this apartment affordable? Most of the time, newsflash, the answer is no, right? But the other trap we fall into is we talk about affordability, and then we talk about this thing called average market rent. CMHC is the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, and they release this statistic every year called average market rent. That's a measure of the rents that everyone is paying in a given market. So it looks at what everybody is paying right now for rent, and that's the average market rent. That's not a measure of affordability, and it's not a measure of what's actually available right now. If I needed to find a 2-bedroom apartment today, the rent for that apartment would be way higher than the average market rent, because the average market rent is what people are paying right now, not what's available out there, right? What is available out there, if you went looking, may or may not be affordable to you. What's affordable for a household is usually somewhere at or below 30% of their income. This is a benchmark that we've been using in Canada for almost 100 years. So most of our rents are between $1,000 and $2,000 a month. So we are hitting that band, right, of households making somewhere between, $40,000-ish and $80,000-ish a year. And we know that those rents are affordable to those bands because it's 30% or less than their monthly income. Needs to be connected to income and also needs to be connected to individual circumstances. Are you a household with 4 children? Are you a single parent? Are you a single individual who has caring obligations and a lot of your income is going to that? Affordable housing is thinking about what is achievable and attainable for the households that you're trying to serve in your mission, and connecting those dots and making it explicit. If we are serving households in these income bands, are our rents in those bands? The answer is yes, you're doing affordable housing.
We know there's a massive need. We have a housing crisis that is citywide. We know that in the last 10, 12 years, we've lost over 30,000 units of housing that had been rented for $1,000 or less per month. We hope that the 10 million can unlock about 200 homes in the next 5 or 6 years. So my name is Mike Bilthouse, and I work with the Ottawa Community Land Trust. So we're a young community land trust that was established in Ottawa in 2021, a few years ago. Community land trusts are certainly across the country, across North America. We're all organizations that were created by community members and trusted by the community, ultimately to hold and steward land for community benefit. The beauty of the community land trust model is that our first focus is to ensure that there's housing that is affordable today and that stays affordable for decades to come. And so in comparison to a financialized owner, our first priority is to ensure that folks are well housed and that housing is affordable.
Okay, my name is Maura. I am an old tenant of CCOC. Since last year, I was looking for places and a job at the same time, which both were very difficult to find. And I was just starting over. Then I had 2 part-time jobs. I was looking for a bachelor. The fact that the places what I could afford was so run down, I was getting scared where I was going to live. The first thing they said to me, we are looking for a tenant who can pay this amount. if you don't have this amount, then it was not. Then I said, okay, something's really difficult here. Was not easy now.
Affordable housing often includes some kind of subsidy. About half of our tenants have a rent geared to income, and that's 30% of their income, whatever that income may be. Some of those rents are as low as like $130 a month, depending on like fixed income levels. And some of them are, drifting up to something closer to $1,000 a month. I cannot promise you that every single apartment in our portfolio is affordable for every single household. But I can promise you that they are cheaper than the ones in the private market. And they're not profit driven, because we are not trying to make a profit off the housing. If the private market could make money doing it, we wouldn't have the problem we have, because they would have done it. They can't make money doing it, so they don't do it.
When I had the possibility to return here, and it has a very good apartment with big windows, clean and good neighbors, in a very good location. Then I was really, really, really happy. I was very glad to CCOC, really, because you don't find any apartments with the same price in this area, and any parking the same price. To me, it was happiness, sure. How is CCOC is keeping their rent lower than the whole area?
The key to keeping housing affordable is to scoop it out of the private market. And what I mean by that is more housing under the care and control and ownership and management of non-market housing providers, nonprofits, land trusts, charities, co-ops, all of those folks in the ecosystem. Make more affordable housing by building it new out of the gate, but you can also get more by buying existing rental housing when it comes on the market, which it does. And instead of having a private developer buy that building and flip it and increase the rent, a nonprofit can buy it, and then we preserve that affordability effectively forever. So Housing Forever bonds are one of the things that I'm most excited about that I've come across in my career in housing. They are a community investment, a social investment, where community members, businesses, individuals, households, institutions, foundations, big and small, loan us money, a little bit of money, maybe a big amount of money, and we use that money to help further our mission. And then after a few years, we pay it back with interest.
And so I want to try and imbue some of that excitement with the folks here today, because I'm personally really excited about this.
I think the beauty of a community bond is that they offer an opportunity for folks to invest directly in their community, invest capital in the capital and for the capital, right? I think it's investing our local resources for the benefit of the residents who live here in Canada's capital. And it's really the CCOT team that came up with that, so they get the credit.
Again, rather than investing with a bank or in the stock market, you're investing in community organizations who have history, who have roots, who have community involvement, who are trying to do more stuff in your neighborhood. And so government programs are inadequate. There's never enough money. Everybody is trying to scrap for their little piece. If we can invite people to join us in helping solve the housing crisis together, then it reduces the pressure on those other programs. It reduces the pressure on our operations. It lets us build more housing. It lets us potentially acquire buildings that might otherwise be lost to the private sector. And everyone who invests with us will make a return. They'll make a small interest return, but also have really significant social return, because the impact of that money is immediate and it's tangible. You'll be able to walk around and see them. You'll be able to meet new neighbors who live in those buildings. And there's so much noise about the housing crisis, and it is really acute and it is really urgent. But this is a tangible way of helping. But the potential is incredible, I think.
I think we all realize that it's impossible for any one sector, whether the private sector, the non-market sector, or government, to solve everything on their own. And I think one of the things that the Land Trust is trying to do here in Ottawa through Housing Forever bonds is bring additional capital into the mix. So if we can raise $10 million in community investment, and we add to that a $10 million contribution from government, and we add to that some equity that we have from other properties, I think that's the way we can see our work go that much further. In fact, with the $10 million that we hope to raise, we project that in the next 5 years, we can recycle that capital several times to preserve approximately 200 units of affordable housing.
Our portfolio is super diverse. We have one of everything in Centertown, from your heritage home to your brand new, opened last year passive house, super efficient modern building. We don't have any 30-story glass and concrete towers, but one of everything else.
I love the gardens. I love to be able to go down and just sit in front of the gardens, and then meet people there. Where is a meeting room, is the laundry room. That's when you meet your neighbors, when you're doing laundry. The building itself, it is very approachable in a way, like people are open to introduce themselves. It's very nice.
The average tenancy duration for CCOC tenants is 11 years. That's wild, right? We provide a security of tenure and a stability of tenure that a lot of people really appreciate. We have lots of 25-year tenancies. Just earlier this year, we had a little celebration for two of our tenants. One tenancy was 45 years and one was 47 years, respectively. And these are folks who are, they're moving to a more supportive environment because they are in their 80s and 90s. But they've lived with CCOC for almost our entire existence. And that's amazing. I see us as stewards of affordability. We care for these properties. We ensure they have really long lives, providing quality housing. We've redeveloped a couple of properties already. And when we redevelop, we put more homes back. We have a goal of adding 850 new homes to our portfolio by 2034. I think it needs to be more, but that's what we've got right now. I expect the board will update that number eventually. I hope we grow. I hope we are able to add homes to our portfolio. I hope we are able to serve more people. I hope we are able to do that in ways that are financially viable and sustainable and that are in line with our mission. I hope that we continue to steward housing into the future.